Today's guest is psychic medium Rebecca Anne LoCicero. She's certified by the Forever Family Foundation, and she's participated in the brain scan research of Dr. Jeffrey Tarrant. She's also an advisory board member on the Spirit Alliance for COPE, presented by Yale Mental Health Department. This organization is currently studying the connections between seeing and hearing voices. She's author of Living with Messages from Heaven, which shares her story of becoming a psychic medium. And she was featured on the Netflix docuseries Surviving Death, based on Leslie Kean's book. She also does stand-up comedy and is absolutely hilarious. Also, heads up, this is an Instagram Live, so we're not on professional mics and the sound isn't as good as a proper episode. But Rebecca is so much fun, and it's just a really good conversation. Hey everyone! I'm really excited to let you know about the Science and Spirituality salons I'm now hosting. During these intimate events, a scientifically verified psychic medium will give all of you readings, and I will give a talk on the science and evidence that changed my mind about an afterlife. This will also be an amazing opportunity to get to meet some of you in person or virtually, and to share more about all the science and data that transformed my worldview and got me through my worst days. These can be hosted in your home, in a nearby cafe with a private room, or they can even be virtual. I've hosted a few already, and they were really special, fascinating, emotional, evidential. So if you're interested in getting a small group together over dinner, brunch, drinks, coffee, to learn more about the science and to get evidential medium readings, send me an email at hello@WTFJustHappened.net and put science and spirituality in the title. Welcome to What the Fuck Just Happened? I'm your host, Liz Enton. If you listened to the intro, you know my story. If not, here's a brief summary. I'm a sciencey-skeptic, and when my dad died, I took a shot in the dark and decided to investigate if there was any possible evidence of an afterlife. I assumed that was as realistic as Santa Claus, but I was desperate. However, I was so blown away by what I discovered that I wrote a book and launched this podcast. In this podcast, I'll be talking to some fairly normal people about some really weird shit. I speak with everyone from psychic mediums and afterlife researchers to ordinary people who've had some inexplicable experiences. So come, listen. There's no need to draw any final conclusions. Keep an open mind and wonder, what the fuck just happened? Hi, everyone. So it looks like Rebecca and I actually figured out all this shit, and we're officially going live now. So, hi. So Rebecca and I are actually, I think we got this worked out. So now everyone is going to be officially joining, and we're actually going to be having an interesting conversation and not discussing technical shit. If anyone turned in earlier today, well, you were just, would have been very fascinating for you to see. Okay. Rebecca, can everyone hear me? If you can hear me, please just...
Everybody's now telling us that it's super clear now and everything is good now and yippee now, and I love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my send button, and I'm literally just going to like hit the people on my top of my list. Da, 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 da. And I don't know, you guys can probably all still see me when I do this, right?
Yeah. Oh, and Darren. Yeah, Darren, that works, but we need the super professional sound of like Zencaster and the two voice streams that are separate, and it's like super professional. So Rebecca's just going to talk to me twice. We're going to do a separate Instagram Live and a separate podcast.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Why not? I mean, I like talking to you. You
I like
challenge
talking to you
me.
too. I challenge Rebecca because I ask her all the hard questions, and that's what we're going to start with. So, a lot of you
Yes.
know Rebecca and Darren. Yes, true. Sure, I do ask hard questions.
She does
Um,
ask hard questions.
so, a
That's
lot
why
of
I,
you,
I brought my friend Yukon with me.
I love that. So, I'm going to introduce, I guess we should each introduce ourselves because I'm sure we have some What the Fuck followers on here and some
Oh, that's
Rebecca
true.
followers.
Well, I hope that my followers absolutely fall in love with whatever the fuck this is. So what the fuck just happened? I that WTF is that's my favorite, That really keeps it going the way it's supposed to. So
And we're getting super sweet comments. And just, when we record the podcast, people aren't going to be writing in saying the sweet things like, thank you, we look
oh, look how
beautiful.
then we're so spoiled. Look how spoiled we are. Look, I'm gonna send this to some more of my friends. Like every once in a while I just hit that.
Waving at everyone. Thank you so much for coming in. And for anyone who came on early while we were trying to figure out all the technical problems, we did not figure it out, but
We did not figure it out.
but we're still going to have really interesting conversations. And it's Nora's on saying hi to you, Rebecca.
Yes, I see her. Hi, Nora. Yes, my daughter is here.
Aw. And okay, so for anyone who doesn't know Rebecca, for the What the Fuck followers, Rebecca Anne LoCicero is a psychic medium. She has been certified by science and science-based organizations, such as where I volunteer at the Forever Family Foundation. She has been studied by Yale. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm actually on the board. I'm one of the board members for the Yale Cope project. So if somebody went to my website, the www.beyondcenter.com, or even the Forever Family Foundation is also on the board. Or at least they were the last time I had checked. But it's a survey. It's a great program. But yep, I absolutely work in conjunction with Yale. Yeah, you have to. It's fun.
Yes.
Studying. We're trying. They're trying to help. And anytime somebody can do something good, I always try to volunteer.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know me, for Rebecca's followers, I am like super skeptical person. I assumed there was absolutely no such thing as an afterlife. I thought mediums were nonsense. Then I met Rebecca and other mediums and did a lot of research and read up to quintuple blinded
I can't imagine
studies.
how many you might have read. Oh, we froze?
No.
Oh.
Did someone say we froze?
I did. I think I did. I had a little pause, but that's okay.
So when I met Rebecca, she was in not the very first mediums I met, but she was in the group of the first mediums. I'd had some private readings. She was in the first group of mediums that I socialized with outside of just having very professional readings. And that meant that I got to hound her with tons of questions, some of which I'm going to be asking her now. And I have been researching if mediumship is even possible for about 5 years now. And I've done everything from reading up to quintuple blinded studies done by Dr. Julie Beischel and Mark Bacuzzi at the Windbridge Institute, all the recommended reading by the Forever Family Foundation, reading just every single thing, historic studies by places like the SPR, which is the Society for Cyclical Research. I love Rebecca too. Yes. And all of this.
I see Warren's Paracon. I don't want to jump in really quick and be funny, but I see that Warren's Paracon just joined in to say hi, and I just spent a weekend there. If you ever had to ask 1,000,001 questions, Liz, you would have thoroughly enjoyed that event. They had, of course, the Hollywood aspect of it with Annabelle and The Conjuring, but it was so fun to be able to be in. Talk about questions. This was a whole nother avenue of paranormal, really interesting stuff. So I saw that. So hi there, hi guys. And
well, that sounds amazing. I will probably go to it next year if People won't kick me out for asking too many questions.
Oh God, they love that. They love that. My children are laughing because they're like, could you please stop sending me a request to join? So I guess I'm hitting the wrong buttons too many times. So I apologize if somebody's coming on and I've over request. I don't know how to add this to my page.
It's automatically, your little live will pop up and people will
Really?
see it. Yeah, it's going to show.
Awesome.
So anyone who's looking
so
to see who's live.
My people
I know, I can
get their
figure out all
heinies
tech
on
stuff
here.
except how to have Instagram Live work with like fancy podcast equipment that makes your voice sound perfect, and which is why Rebecca gets to talk to me twice. And all of you will get to hear two different conversations, one on our podcast and one now. And so I guess I'm going to ask Rebecca some of the questions I always asked her in the beginning. Like, I have questions now, but no one can answer the questions I ask at this point. My main question at this...
I take that as a challenge.
Okay, let's go. I'll ask you the main question I'm stuck on now. Let's see if you got it.
All right. But I don't know. I mean, we also have to make sure that we follow our chat. And my chat is definitely a little slower than yours. So you'll have to make sure that you you definitely put like whatever it is that you have to do to follow all of those chats, because I don't get to see, like, I'm not that good.
I don't know what you mean.
They're asking questions. I want to make sure that they can ask questions too. And if we start talking about something that's out, over somebody's head, we got to be able to go backwards.
Okay. Well, I'll see any questions coming in, and you will too. And we'll just, if we can interrupt our chat to say, hi, okay, someone has a question, answer it. This is my question, but I guarantee you can't answer it.
Okay.
What substance is consciousness once someone is discarnate? Like, what molecular atomic structure?
Okay. I do believe that I do believe that what you are looking for as far as a measurable atomic structure is not going to be possible. I think that the intricate parts of our consciousness are so minute that it may only be measurable when it has maybe a drip or a drift within transition of connecting with our physical body. So I know that a lot of people have done a lot of studies around death. In particular, people who were literally, like studying, maybe they were scientists. Maybe this is what you'll wind up doing, like measure my electricity when I die, But they have had, and they used to do it a lot more, like pre-1800 even. They would have different instruments around the body to try to catch a soul, see a soul, move a soul. And what they experienced most of was, if we say we have pheromones, or we have a smell, or we have an odor, or a moisture, or an aura, that's measurable, right? Like if you're sweating, it's going to be sweat above your skin as well as on your skin, because there's like a chemical reaction coming up. I believe that the atomic structure of your soul, again, is so minute that it's only measurable within the concept of being able to also study off of your cellular reaction. But I think that once your soul has completely left your cellular body and has kind of removed itself from that combustion and combination, you can't measure it.
Right. And I wish we had the equipment where we could measure that discarnate consciousness of someone who's been dead for like 10 years.
But we would have to know how to remove the cellular structures interaction with it. Kind of like separating video from sound.
I can separate video from sound.
Right, but when the energy that's being measured from your body, first of all, we have to find a lot of people who are dying, who are willing to be hooked up to shit while they're dying.
I'll do that in like
equipment. Yeah, I mean, when I'm dying, come plug shit into me.
Same.
Cover me in aluminum foil and
want.
measure me But I do believe it's electricity of some sort. So what we really need somebody, and if there happens to be anybody watching who is, we need somebody who is a molecular biologist and an electrician.
Oh my God, is one person who's both, or could we get an electrician and
I think come on, they're going to have to develop a piece of equipment that's going to be able to measure energy in motion that also is gonna, I mean, and how would you even measure that? I think you would have to measure it with some sort of like foil that it would have to go through, which means we'd have to cover you
while someone's dying.
Yeah, because we don't know where it leaves. I mean, if anything, we want to cover your face. That's where breath goes out, breath comes in. In my world, that's breath of life. So when the breath goes out, oh, maybe you can measure it like before the baby takes the first breath, because that's when it goes in.
Right, but consciousness is already in a fetus after probably, I don't know, 4 months.
Consciousness is aware of its fetus. Consciousness does not connect to the cellular structure until breath.
How do you know that?
I don't.
I mean,
I will say that I don't put anything past the absolutely fucking miraculousness of being pregnant. And I know that the consciousness of the soul is aware that conception has happened. They're even aware of conception is going to happen before it happens. It's almost like they're waiting around. But
I've read studies like that, like of Jim. Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah, which is why, like, I think you could probably measure consciousness around a pregnant woman easier than you could there would probably be a similar measurement tool. Again, it's a physical body of the mother that the child is in, where you're going to be connecting with the, kind of like a 9-month-old. If you tap on their hand, they're smart enough, they're tapping back.
Okay.
So I do believe that they are connected to their physical body in some way. But until you take that breath of life, the consciousness that you're talking about measuring exists outside the body.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, I want to know why you think that, but so let me explain.
Because
so, like,
a baby inside of you is like not that it's dead, because it has a heartbeat and it's pumping blood, but there's no oxygen other than the mom's. So when it comes out, it needs to have its own oxygen source so it can live, which comes in with life.
Interesting.
Just like
I mean, I have
leaves
heard
the body. You're asking to measure when it leaves. Why aren't you looking for when it comes?
I would love to study that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we need to find people who had sex.
And had babies. Actually, I think that would probably be better. I think actually a better way probably to study it. I'm going to be careful studying it. I'm just going to say one political thing, because there's a bunch of stupid fucks trying to take away women's rights around this topic. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, the whole Texas thing?
Yeah, but we don't need to talk about politics. But
well, okay, so I'll say this. We don't have to talk about it. But for both sides, because Soul doesn't have an opinion, I'm going to say this. I truly 100% believe that every single human being on this planet has the right to choose what to do with their own body. And I don't think that any government/religion contract for our public to have another decisive division put out publicly. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, if somebody wants to get a fucking abortion, they're going to get one. And if they live in Texas, they're going to get on a fucking plane or in a car or on a bus.
If they have the money.
Get a fucking abortion. But the only reason why they're doing this, in a sense, somewhere, someone, is to cause division. If I am pro-life and somebody else is pro-choice, and
anti-choice and pro-choice,
pro-abortion, or however it works, that doesn't have to stand politically or religiously. I'm adopted. I'm pro-choice, and I lean towards pro-life because I know there's an alternative. But if you find yourself in some of these clinics, and I'm not going to name which clinics because there's a lot of them, not one, they forget to talk about adoption. And being an adopted person, that my stand comes out a little bit different than others. because I lean towards pro-life because
For yourself.
For myself, or if someone was to ask me my opinion, I would say, if you don't want to raise a child, there are two ways for you to not raise a child. You can have an abortion, or you can give birth and give the child to somebody who can't have a child. There are desperate, loving people out there trying every day to have a child. And then there's crack whores getting knocked up with babies who won't live past 6 months. So tell me. Sorry.
Well, yeah.
Both sides.
I mean,
I just don't like division anymore.
Yeah. I just like people being respected to make whatever choices they make. I think is a big deal. Like,
and people, honestly, don't we do that anyway?
If you have money and access.
Okay. I understand.
Yeah. I think, but it's a privilege. But
yeah,
I think
even if you have money and access, that's not necessarily true either. I mean, some people they'll do what they have to do or what they can do to kind of put themselves in the position to get done what they got to get done. And you know what? I am not against. I am 150,000% for pro-choice in every aspect of your life, even with mediumship. I mean, Liz, you ask a question about consciousness and how to measure it outside the body, and then I'm somebody who, I have a lot of friends on my Instagram, and these may be people that have absolutely nothing to do with mediumship, and they just want to see, oh, what are you talking about kind of thing, and they can have any kind of opinion at all. But when it comes to like the mediumship part of it, they could be skeptic and listening in going, I don't even believe there is a consciousness that comes out of the body.
That was
what are you talking about measuring? Somebody pregnant could be watching and being like, oh, what are you talking about? You're not measuring my baby's in me, like that kind of thing. And it gets tricky. I just love you.
I know. Well, that was me when I first met you. I thought, well, we have a specific question coming in, but I'll just say when I first met you, I mean, but I want to say one thing in regards of people who are being skeptics. I think there's a really good way to be it and a really negative way. Like, I consider myself a skeptic. Like, when I first met the mediums, I thought there was almost zero chance of consciousness surviving after bodily death. But I think there's a way you investigate it with respect. I have met people who come in as skeptics, investigate mediums, kind of laughing, thinking they're pulling a fast one, being like, I'm going to expose the mediums, versus people like me and some friends I've made since who think I've had a really bad loss, or maybe people are sick themselves, who think, wow, there's probably no chance this is true, but I'm going to give it a shot in the dark, and I hope it's true, but I'm not going to lie to myself. And I think
right, like not setting yourself up for an expectation.
Right. I mean, it still doesn't make sense to me, but the amount of evidence I have seen, which we'll talk about some of it, including that microphone experience, if you're okay, that Rebecca has completely...
We should talk about that. We should invite Peter to come on and talk about that.
Oh, my God. Well, first we have a question coming in.
Okay, good.
Luina, okay, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Yes, Darren, I'm going to address that right after. You're very right. Right now, we'll go back to Darren's. I just... Oh, lots of questions coming in. Okay, so we'll start with Lena K, because you've been so patient. Thank you. She wants to know, Rebecca, when you do a reading for the future, is the future in stone, or does it change as the person's attitude decisions change? I've read some about that, too, from the science perspective. So, but Rebecca, why don't you answer from the mediumship, and I'll answer from the science.
So I will say this. I'll just talk about the psychic part of that, because that is an incredibly good
I have to interrupt for 1 second, because I just got a comment from Amy Moore, and I agree, too. This was a big part of it, too. She's a skeptic, too, but after watching Rebecca, she now believes. So I completely get that.
I love her. I will say, okay, so mediumship is you, me, and spirit. I become the middleman for the conversation because I can understand and hear spirit vibrational language, which is what I give to people, which are messages with mediumship. Her question that you said was about the future is psychic. So psychic is just between you and me. And psychic is a vibration of an energy that is in motion. So if you, let's say, Liz, you went out on a date last night. And you've been of an energy that is in motion. So let's say, Liz, you went out on a date last night.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been talking to this person for a couple of weeks, and maybe this person seems like a really great partner, and then you went out to dinner, and you had this, that, and the other thing for dinner, and then afterwards you went and did something else, and then today you have a reading with me. And maybe this is like the first date you've had in a long time. Psychic would be, for me, as far as the future is concerned, I am going to have to be able to know correctly, without you telling me, you haven't dated in a while, have you? And you'll go, no, right? Because we want validation. I'll say, well, it took you an awful long time to meet this guy, but you finally did, or this girl, whatever, your partner. And you go, yep. And then I'll say, okay, so you had one dinner and he was just sloppy all over the place. You don't like seafood. He didn't eat his vegetables. And afterwards, he wanted to take you for a walk down a dark alley. And then you can go, oh my God, all of that is true, but it's where his apartment was, and he didn't know I didn't like fish, and maybe I should give it a second chance. And I'm going to say that at that point in time, energy is in motion. You haven't dated for a while. You got out. It wasn't exactly perfect, and you weren't sure what to do afterwards or what his intentions were. So I'm going to tell you, this looks like something where you would want to give it a second chance or maybe a second date, because you sound more confused than not. And then if you hear that and I can understand where you are currently and give it to you, kind of like confirming for you or organizing your current energies, yeah, of course I can predict what's next. However, you can get on that phone with him and he could be like, hey, there's a great oyster restaurant down the road. And you could just be like, you know what? Fuck it. Not worth it. Click. So there, you've changed the entire reading. You didn't go out on the second date. You weren't in the mood for the seafood because, I don't know, maybe you stubbed your toe right before you called and it set everything off. I have no control of your future. We have free will. So I can predict where I feel something's going to go. And honestly, in all aspects, whether it's money, love, vacations, futures, sometimes politics, sometimes sports, if things are already predetermined in some way, I can get it. I'm pretty good at the psychic thing. But no, we have free will. Tell her no. Was it an Amy?
Let's see. Let me get back into question Q&A. I think that was, yeah.
Free will.
That was Louina asking about the future.
Okay. Thank you, Louina.
And I have an answer about that too, that I've read about from the science perspective. And so one of my favorite people in the world who I have not met, but I will be meeting, Dr. Claude Swanson. He's a physicist.
Can't wait.
Yes. And his books have been so helpful. And he describes seeing the future as this. So Dr. Claude Swanson will say, let's take a hill and let's have balls rolling down the hill. And each ball is a human life. And there's certain paths that the balls can follow. And there's the clear path they'll go down. And then there's the paths where it can be like 50-50, go either way. And then there's a path that there's a 5% chance it could just turn and go down. And maybe, just there's other things like velocity of one of the balls. If there's a wind, maybe two balls will bump into each other. There's just these things. And what a psychic can do is see the aerial view and see this is most likely, this is possible, but they can't know things like everything either. Like, is there going to be wind? They can just see the probabilities. Correct. And as Lloyd Arbach describes it, is he also brings in free will, as Rebecca mentioned, but he said it's similar. Another example that people predict the weather all the time, or predict the future all the time, are meteorologists. And they have a bigger...
I don't know.
They have a bigger view where they can see. Okay, Rebecca's disagreeing, which I'll give her a second.
I'm just listening.
Well, I want you to say what you have to say.
Well, you know why? Because it's almost as if it's so funny because I'm listening and I'm listening. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's in a box. What you're saying is in a box. Receiving a piece of psychic information off of somebody is not one viewpoint. Mm-hmm. It's more multidimensional. So it would be a 5% of more like a 5. I don't. You can't even. It would be 5% of 100% of 5%.
What? I don't.
It would be like a multi-dimensional pie wheel. So it's so I to me that's to compare it to looking down would be like limited, because psychic information comes holistically, the whole picture at once. So sometimes somebody will sit down and they'll go, I met somebody, and without them saying a word or me giving any validation, I will instantly feel one way or another. I may feel like repulsed. And I'll go, I don't care, I don't like them. I don't care, I don't like them. I don't care, I don't like them. I have done that one time to somebody, and they went and married them and divorced them.
And you just had that horrible feeling.
I could not get rid of it. And honestly, it wrecked the client psychic medium. It wrecked our relationship as me being her psychic.
Because you told her this doesn't feel
and
right.
I said to her, and a psychic will often say to somebody, do you want me to tell you what I see and what I feel, or do you want me to lie to you?
Mm-hmm. Which is fair. Why go? I mean, you can't help what you felt.
She wanted me to lie to her, even though it was unsubstantiated, because the information was perfect. Oh, he was good. We went out to dinner. There's an engagement ring. We're going to Florida, blah, blah, blah. He's so cute. Sex is great. Da, da, da. And I'm like, nope.
Something doesn't feel right.
Yeah. So and that's hard. It's hard. Honestly, Liz, I don't know how you're friends with me. It's hard.
Oh my God, being friends with you is amazing. I love it.
But if I had to tell you, if you had to ask me something and I had to tell you something you didn't like, then what? Like, that's why I don't like mediums and psychics will say we can't read our family and our friends because we don't freaking want to read you.
I guess if you told me something I didn't want to hear, I mean, I would rather you say it. And if I didn't want to live by it, I mean, I'm going to make my own decision at the end. I wouldn't be mad at you. I would think maybe I'd rationalize it, and maybe I'd be right even in deciding that. Maybe you'd have a funny feeling. I mean, because maybe he would be the love of my life. And I mean, as we all unfortunately see in Forever Family, maybe he would pass away young and you'd be wanting to protect me from that. Maybe we'd have a wonderful baby, but you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's it, but maybe it would turn, I don't know.
Which is where the whole free will aspect comes in.
Yeah.
I have to tell you a story. I was I don't know if the Warrens Paracon is still watching, but I'm going to tell a story that happened while I was there.
And what is the Warren Paracon is an event?
The Warrens Paracon, Seekers of the Supernatural, the Lorraine and Ed Warren's daughter, her husband, they had an expo, kind of like the expos that I've been running for the last, years. And so my daughter, Nora and I were going to set up a booth, but then she bailed. So, and then I had the funny one. So it was kind of interesting. Well, anyway, long story short, there were 3 tarot card readers at this event. And then a lot of authors and a lot of people who were selling knick-knack stuff. And it was Halloween themed in a sense, or the supernatural themed. And there were a lot of ghost hunters there and people to speak about things like that, which I wouldn't be able to hold up a conversation about that if you asked me a ton of questions. I could do this side, but when it comes to that side, I don't know what I know or believe in. So I tend to not talk on that aspect. So up walks this woman who comes up to me and she says, I was told to ask you for a reading. And she's standing with her daughter. And I said, well, I'm not reading at this fair. And she's like, oh, well, this person said, and that person, and it was people from my expos, people who knew me that were there. Samaya was with her pyramid and her oils, and Carrie was doing the aura photos. So, and I look at this lady, and she looked distraught. And she said, I said, I do phone reading. She goes, well, I'm in Georgia. And I was like, okay. And then she looks at her daughter and she goes, should I just go over to the other lady? And I was like this gut-wrenching feeling. So I don't know who the readers were. I knew my friend who was a reader, but I knew that all 3 of them were tarot card readers. And I said, you don't want a tarot card reading? And she goes, I want to, talk to somebody. I lost someone. Mm-hmm. And then I felt it again. It was like this, I don't even know. It was like, I'm not on. I had just gotten back from working 2 hours at the Funny Bone doing a gig. I was done. I was off. And then I look at her and I go, okay, so your dad just died a couple of months ago. And she just kind of looks at me and I go, just say yes or no. And she said, yes. And I said, so you're the skeptic. You don't know if you want to do this or not. And she goes, I just don't think that this is, anybody can say that, She wanted to believe. And then I said, well, what is all of this behind my left ear? I said, because your dad is like sticking his hand inside my head. I felt like he was reaching through her to me because I'm the medium. I'm in the middle. So her dad kind of goes through both of us, right? And I said, no, I know he died quick. He seems to have an issue, but what is it with his head? She goes, it's not his head, it's mine. And I said, okay, well, he's putting his hand inside your head. He's telling me that you're okay. He's telling me that he says hi. And then I started giving her a few more pieces of verification. And then I said, listen, I'm done. And she looks at me and she says, she has a brain tumor.
Who said that to you?
This is a random person at this Warren's Paracon.
But who told you the brain tumor? The person on the other side?
Her dad, who was communicating with me, even though I was tired and I was done. And even though I told her no, I think that he wanted to make sure that she got some good information or a good experience and not go to the other tarot card readers that were at that fair. Because I think that they may have hurt her, or they may have, if she had gone, they would not have done for her what she needed. And I kept saying, just tell her, just tell her, just tell her. But it got to the point where she had exactly what she needed. She said to me those things that sometimes people need to say. And it was, thank you. You just changed my life. I feel better. I feel healthier, and hugging me and crying with me and wanting to take me home with her. And I asked her if she made meatballs and she said, yes, so I can go.
And she's the one who has the brain tumor now, that woman.
She's the one who has the brain tumor. So when her dad came through and started, she goes, I have a brain tumor on the left side of my head.
Wow.
After I gave her a 2.5 minute reading that I literally, it was like I was pulling a splinter out of my brain as I'm trying to read because I was just so tired.
And so when you said you got that she had a brain tumor, how do you get that? Was her dad saying in words, my daughter has a brain tumor? Did you feel something?
I asked her, did he die of a brain tumor?
But how did you just knew that?
Putting his hand through my head.
But in order
for him to put his hand through my head, he has to also put it through hers. So if somebody comes through and says, oh, Rebecca, give her a kiss, I get the kiss and you get the kiss.
Got it.
So if he says, here's the head, he's showing it to me through you. It's like, I can't do the reading without you.
Okay.
In some fashion, it has to be, you have to be receiving.
That's it. Okay. Whoa. Guess who's just jumping up and saying hi? I'm getting lit.
I don't know. Who is?
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hello, little puppy.
This is Pickles saying hi. Climbing on my... Hi, everyone. Pickles wants to meet everyone.
Hi, Pickles.
So the Art of Soulfulness has a question. How do you hear or see spirit on command?
Oh, good question. On command. Well, on command is a very, what I would call a very direct and stern way of putting it. It is in synchronicity with the purpose. So instead of bringing in a loved one on command because it is time for a reading, I allow spirit to connect with me at that synchronistic moment because there's purpose. Daisy baby.
Hi. This is my little, speaking of on command.
On command. I have a little one under my feet, but then I had another one was scratching at the door, but I didn't open it because, you know.
So I'm going to ask you one of my questions.
All right.
What would you say is, or story would you share if you met an incredibly skeptical person like me at first, or anyone else who's just like, I absolutely don't think this is true, but you know, they weren't being challenging. Oh, hi Pickles. Amy Moore's saying hi to Pickles. Thank you. I love him too, and I love dogs too.
He's so cute.
So what would you say to someone who was like, I absolutely don't think this is true, but they weren't being rude? You know, someone like me who was like, I had a loss. I can't believe at all this is true. And why do you think it is? What would be the one thing you would tell them?
Well, you know what? You're kind of, I don't want to say you're confusing me because I don't mean it that way. But tell me what you mean exactly. Like,
okay, is there an experience you had? You'd be like, well, this one time during a reading, this was so evidential, or this
no,
one
because
thing...
anything that I would say, I think would just be hearsay.
Okay, then.
And so I would actually have to say.
Well, then just share your most evidential experience, I guess is what I mean.
Oh, you're so funny. Okay.
Okay.
Well, because how would I convince somebody who might be skeptic would be, but you're right about that. So I would say this. I would say to them that I would say it kind of back to them. I would say, hasn't anything ever happened in your world that was unexplainable to you? Does anything stick with you that you just can't put your finger on? Like you're not sure, but maybe. And usually people say yes. Like, oh, well, you know, one time that happened or one time this happened. And I'd say, okay, it happens for me 10 to 12 to 15 times a day. Maybe 15 to 20 to 30 times with every reading. So it's more of like, take your one aha moment or really strange situation and understand that that's my day to day. I think that's how I would explain it to somebody, because it's not so much that it's unusual or that it would have to be proved to them. So a story, there's just been so freaking many. Okay, just recently, I was doing a group. It was one of my last groups at the Beyond Center. And I was looking at a woman who was talking about one of her relatives. I believe it was a female who had crossed up cancer. I was reading her. And I felt as if I was eating a lollipop. And I kind of got excited because I thought it was like a pot pop, like a THC lollipop for her. Maybe because, you know, that's really good. It gets food in, it gets sugar in. If they put herbs sometimes, and then, you know, if there's a Tootsie Roll center, it's even better. But it's really good for cancer patients. And then I kind of stood back and I went, kind of like lollipop, lollipop, oh, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop. And right down to the whole boom, boom, boom. Okay? I did the whole thing. I'm reading the woman right in front of me. The woman to the side of me, she goes, oh my God! I was like, what? She goes, my dad wrote that song.
No, that's insane.
You cannot make that shit up. You can't.
You can't.
It was like, she was like, what just happened? Because it may not be so unusual that somebody may come out and just spark a song like that once in a while, right? Especially me. I grew up in the whole Stand By Me generation. We all had that cassette tape. But at the same time, it was, you know, I'm only with you for this hour and a half, 45-minute period of time. And here I am doing something or saying something that connects in that way. I remember being at Wine and Spirits in Chester, Connecticut, and the one in Spirit kept going, what time is it? what time is it? I need to know what time it is. What time is it? And it was like spirit was, and I reacted, and I said the same thing. I was like, what time is it? And I was like banging on the table. And Donna and Ron at Chester Wine and Spirit, Chester,
no. Connecticut. That's where Rebecca and I were at a grief retreat.
No, it's Chester, Connecticut.
I take it back.
Next to Big Y. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. But they, so she goes, I don't know, it's like 8:26 or whatever the number was, whatever time it was. It was in the evening. It was like 8 something. The woman I was reading, it was her wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow. I
was like, are you serious?
Wow.
So it's kind of like, I didn't say to the girl, hey, what's August 26th? It was spirit going, find out what time it is right now, and linking where she was, what time it was. There's the date. This is how Rebecca's going to get the information. She's going to ask what time it is, and the time is going to match. Not that she Googled you and found it out. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not that smart.
Yeah, we would have figured out how to do Instagram Live and the podcast.
Are you kidding me? My apple juice. I don't remember shit.
Oh, wait, Darren, my friend Darren, who was helping us earlier, he has a few really great questions. First,
good.
He's like me. He's a skeptic like me, and so he asks the amazing questions. And I agree with this too. He says something he's always interested in, the same way I am with mediums, especially the certified mediums, and the ones that have done testing, and is, what's your opinion on the various tests that are set up to prove or debunk? There's different kinds, such as the Randy challenge, and there's some good ones too, but let's start with the Randy and then maybe compare it with the good one too.
I would have done the Randy one.
Mm-hmm.
However, it would have been another human being who only uses a 2% capacity of their brain making a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Even for the Forever Family Foundation, even though it is scientifically based and it is one of the most fantastic and intricate testing systems that I've seen, it's still based on personal experience and opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, you know what? I think testing is bullshit. I'm sorry.
Really? Oh, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. Why do you say that? I'm actually fascinated.
How are you going to test something that you can't, like, you literally can't? I literally could die and it could be absolutely nothing, and this could all be a figment of my imagination. And any medium who says otherwise is kidding themselves. I mean, I hope I'm not schizophrenic. I've had enough experiences to know that this is real. I'm not trying to doubt it myself. I just don't believe that there is a test outside of a human opinion or assessment that can be measured. I mean, what are you really measuring? You can measure how many ounces are in this glass. You can measure how long this is. You can measure how much warmth can get through this. You can measure how much air can go through a mask. You can measure how much blood is in my body, but you cannot measure how much love comes from heaven. You can't measure how much information gets missed when you try to test, trying to fit into a parameter. I read somebody once, textbook perfect, name, dates, love, everything. And the guy thought it was the greatest reading. He really did. He thought it was awesome. He even made a joke and said, I'd give you an A on that one. And then I turned around and I walked away. We were in the group. And his dad said, you need to go punch him. I was like, I'm not going to punch him. And he says, no, I would always say hello and goodbye by hitting him on his shoulder. Go punch him. So I turn around to him and I walk over to him and I go, you think I'm bullshit, don't you? And he's like, maybe. I was like, but you just gave me an A+. And I punched him in the shoulder. And he's like, now I believe you.
Wow. But that's evidence. That would be a test if he was sitting for like Julie Beischel, Dr. Julie Beischel in Rimbridge, and one of
so what? Her opinion is going to measure that?
No, this is, Darren's jumping in. We're both the,
I'm sorry.
Shirley would
You
not
think you
testing.
got questions? I got answers you might not like.
Well, no, okay, this is the thing. That is totally measurable in this sense. I mean, it wasn't in a measurable moment. Love and light loves it. Haha, loves it. I love the punching too. That was hilarious. Well, but I got distracted and Rebecca saying testing and this stuff isn't quantifiable because I'm like, it is completely quantifiable.
Okay, but what are you quantifying? What columns are you, brackets are you putting it in? She said
I'm
8 words. 7
quantifying.
of the 8 words made sense.
Yeah, I'm quantifying.
Really?
Yes, quantifying.
So if I tell you that I love you, it's okay. But if somebody else, if I didn't love you and said I love you, would you know the difference?
No, but if I go to a medium and all they say is your dad loved you, I'm like, yeah, no shit, thank you. But if they say that I would put in a generic. If they say things, quantifiable facts, this was his favorite color, this was his favorite food, I remember this. And I understand sometimes it doesn't come in black and white. Like, for example, I know I brought this up on another talk, but for example, okay, everyone's getting my address, don't come stalk me, but like my first medium reading. I'm
laughing. Somebody just mentioned Lily Dale.
Yes, we can talk about that too.
Let me pick my eyes up off the floor once I roll them out of my head for Lily Dale.
So for example, I mean, you're quantifying facts, information that it's not as quantifiable as 2 + 2 or the amount of like gallons, of
so
water.
You're measuring probability of accuracy, which is what the foundation does.
And you're measuring if someone knows.
It's the measurement of accuracy within afterlife communication. And like I said, the Forever Family.
Darren said it perfectly. It's a matter of statistical significance. If facts match to people's readings at a rate statistically significantly against chance, you have an effect in reality suggesting it's beyond imagination. Sorry.
Oh, I lost you. Got excited.
I'm going to actually keep that and quote you on my social media at some point if I have your permission. I'll message you about that because that is so perfectly worded and exactly what I wanted to say, but much more eloquently than I speak. So, I'll just read it again because Darren said what I've been trying to say, but so much better. So, it's a matter of statistical significance. If facts match to people's readings at a rate statistically significantly against chance, you have an effect in reality suggesting it's beyond imagination. And I'm going to add to that, suggesting consciousness and reality works differently than we understand through materialist science. Do we say we know 100% what that is?
It's a tool of imagination. That is the reading is through the tool of imagination, the brain process.
Well, it depends how you define imagination. Like imagination, maybe the most brilliant artists, maybe imagination is a communication with the other side. Like someone makes beautiful art and they say it came into my head through my imagination. Beautiful literature, beautiful creativity. Maybe they're collaborating. I mean, anyone who does art and creativity, I've always done a lot of art and creativity and that stuff. It feels like, I never would have defined it that way because I never thought in those terms. Rebecca?
Sorry about that. I have to.
Maybe, for all we know, it is almost like a spiritual experience, especially when someone's like one of the best artists. For all we know, maybe a type of imagination is a connection to other loved ones. That's philosophy. You can't, maybe there's some way to test that at some point, but in general, that's not an easily testable hypothesis. Oh, thanks, Darren. Yes, I can quote Darren. Thank you.
I'm going to have to steal a phone charger from one of my children here pretty soon.
Okay. Oh, bless you. Thank you. Rebecca, someone is blessing you for coughing. Esti Creole.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. That was very sweet. And Rebecca, should we go to there's a question about Lily Dale from the Art of Soulfulness, who so kindly was helping us when we were having all the tech problems. So I want to thank you so much for that. That was actually really kind to use your time that way. We really appreciate it. Oh. And we have a question from the Art of Soulfulness. What about spiritualism, where they test before they allow folks to practice in their facilities or on Lilydale property. Well, I don't think Lilydale tests so much from what I know. I feel the best tests, this is just my understanding. Someone else could correct me. My personal understanding is that Lilydale isn't really a place with strict testing as far as I know.
Again, it is all going to be
Windbridge.
personal opinion and personal preference as well.
I don't think Julie, Dr.
Well, what about
tests are
Randy's
forever.
challenge? I know people who did some pretty incredible things, and he was like, nah.
Okay, I have talked about Randy quite a bit, and I'll talk about him now. I know I spoke with Darren, you're on. We've talked about Randy.
Rest in peace. I mean, not trying to be mean.
Right, no. And Randy did a lot of good. Randy exposed fraud, and that is great.
But he exposed fraud, but he didn't also expose accuracy. He could have done both. He could have done both.
You ever wonder what mediums do with their free time? How about a 30-something-year-old gay medium living in New York City? Well, in this podcast, you're about to find out. Welcome to Ghost Daddy, a place where LGBTQ plus spiritual people, and our cis-hetero allies, of course, have a place to just be themselves and spread their wisdom. This is the new face of spirituality. None of that love and light, toxic positivity crap. So pour yourself a vodka soda, open up your mind, and start listening. You can listen to the Ghost Daddy podcast anywhere where you listen to podcasts.
He had a test that was impossible to pass in the sense that, from what I heard, he wouldn't accept it.
Correct. That's different.
Oh, this is going to be good. Okay, we'll ask you this in a minute, Rebecca.
I'm so sorry for all of the moving around.
But I think I want to explain why. Then correct me in any way. This is my understanding. Randy would make things, no medium's ever 100%. And a medium could go in and say name, date, social security number, favorite memory, and job. And then gets the job wrong. Like, be like, I saw they were a doctor, but they were like fixed computers, or, who knows why. Maybe you were getting, and then Randy would be like, you failed because it's not 100%. And he didn't do it by statistics and odds. He did it by 100%. So you could completely, who's Randy? I'll explain that in 1 minute. So, and the reason I guess I have a lot of strong emotional feelings about Randy's $1 million challenge, which I'll explain in a minute, was very early on. Before understanding this, in my deep grief, if anyone doesn't know my story, I got into this science-minded skeptic after losing my dad. So I thought there was almost no chance of this. And one of the reasons was I kept hearing and reading how no psychic or medium has ever won Randy's challenge. So however much I was reading, I was like, but if someone had if someone was real, they would have won Randy's challenge. So now to explain who Randy is, because the Art of Soulfulness and probably other people here don't automatically know who Randy is. If you look up, Randy was a stage magician. He passed about a year ago. He was quite elderly. He set up a challenge and said that anyone who showed that they have genuine psychic, medium, paranormal abilities, anything like bending spoons, able to move objects with their mind, anyone who proved that would get $1 million. And he set up a test, and people came from all over trying, and nobody ever passed. But when I started learning about details of it, they got significantly beyond the odds of chance. But it was a setup. I don't think intentionally. I just think he hadn't educated himself enough about abilities. It was a setup that no one could pass, again, because some medium readings are up to 80% accurate, just absolutely impossible to know the information they've gotten, but they're never 100%, and no one would pass. Or I heard one,
I beg to differ. We get my peeps up on here. I've had a few 100%.
This is interesting. Have you ever had a message from Randy since he passed?
Oh, have you? I haven't.
I don't get messages.
If anybody has.
Randy could be giving me messages left and right. How the fuck would I know? I don't have abilities to read them.
I would have to know somebody to. But you know what? He should have left that for someone. He should have left, I left a code word So the first person to come to you with my code word gets that $1 billion or something. Like, he should have done something like that. That would have been cool.
I wonder if, yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, you know, it was, and just to go back to the whole aspect of testing, there is a obligation when you're a medium to be able to convey what you are receiving for the person who is receiving it, the sitter, from spirit to sitter, for their highest good and in the best way. And all mediums are different. My approach is very loud and very blunt and very to the point. And I know that I am not everybody's cup of tea. However, you can't try to test somebody. I don't believe that you can accurately test somebody and call a judgment saying that they are the best. I don't think there would ever be a number one, number two, number three. The best medium in the world could have an off day.
Okay,
they could have a depression themselves. They could have woken up and stubbed their toe and then had to do a reading 5 minutes later, throbbing in pain and testing for $1 million. I mean, we don't know what, and not only that, but you don't know how somebody's going to take it or hear it. I mean, me giving that guy a reading that was 100% meant great to him. You got an A+, you got everything right. But when I turned around and I kind of knocked him in the arm, then he started crying. Mm-hmm. It caused a physical reaction. When somebody is measuring a reading, they and grading it and scoring it. Do you remember how it felt when you felt somebody, a medium, giving you that one piece from your dad, where it went and it ripped right inside your heart like he was hugging you from the inside out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely.
Okay, that is the 100%. If somebody gets a reading and they don't have any of that, it could be 100% accurate in validation. But if you don't feel it, where was it?
I guess my take on that as someone who never believed this, and still, it's someone sitting there just giving the information. It's like, I don't need the I love yous, because like for me, as the more skeptical person instead of a spiritual person, and I'm hearing lovely things about you, Rebecca. Then I'll go back to it. I just don't want you to miss this.
Well, I think that.
So you're saying that you got 100%.
You know, a lot of people, you may not need to hear the
important.
I love you.
This is important. Someone is saying you've given them 100% accurate readings, and you've given their family 100% accurate readings. I think people, and that feeling was absolutely unforgettable. And someone else is saying that they cried when you gave them a reading. So people are saying the most loving things about you, which I think you have to know.
Thank you so much.
Which is so true. Rebecca has made such a difference in my life too.
And that's that's I think is important, you know, like, but I do know everybody has opinions, right? So you put 25 mediums in front of me, and I see them all work. Or even if I don't see them all, like, sometimes you can, I don't know, maybe that's the psychic thing and I can, not you. So I'll take that back. I think that there is a definite need. See, and that brings me into the whole gypsies and you know.
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk about that,
because people can bamboozle and pass a test.
I want to talk about that, but I do have to say, as someone who's much more the skeptical, and I know we've talked about this. Rebecca said because I remember you openly saying we don't know what it's like to have been a kind of person who never believed anything spiritual. Like, I was raised atheist, a cultural Jew, but completely atheist. Like, thought anything else was like just not an option. I wouldn't say nuts. Like, we had respect for other people's values, but it was completely unrealistic. And so when I get the facts, and especially early on, that meant so much more to me than anything. Oh, your dad's sending so much love to you. I was kind of like, yeah, of course. Like, you're going to say that.
Aww.
So the facts were like, that was just, to this day, I get chills. It's the feeling of watching someone defy the laws of the universe, the shock of that, the feeling of, oh my God, my dad is really here. It changes my whole concept of mortality. It changed, like, the facts and empirical evidence changed things for me in such a profound way that no, like, message wrapped in love could. Like, if that, oh shit, we lost Rebecca. She'll be on in a second. So, you know, she'll be right back. Okay, she's coming back. Maybe Rebecca, you on? Hey. Okay,
no, you don't understand. Like, my whole phone is being really. All right. Say something. Okay. All right, now I hear you. All right,
we're here.
Yeah. Shit just got weird.
Oh, yes. Jill. Hi, Jill. My friend Jill here is. Oh, my friend Stephanie's here. Hi, Stephanie. And Jill said exactly what I feel too with this. This explains it. The facts that couldn't be known are the skeptics' punch in the gut. Like, in a good way, I think. Like, you know, bringing the hope their loved ones still exists. It brings it's a hope that I can't. From someone like me who thought there was zero chance, there aren't words for it. I want to explain why I feel this way, and it is a level that is so profound we do not have words in the English language. So I'm sort of helpless to really explain what it means to me when I get the facts and the data and the evidence, because facts, data, and evidence sound very emotionless. And to me, the level of emotion and profundity when someone gets a fact about my dad, like, I feel like I can't follow this conversation. It doesn't, there aren't butterflies in the gut instead of punches, maybe a better way to say it. Yes. It is, like, there was a quote, I don't even know if I'm going to take the time to look it up now. It's by, I believe, Dean Radin, and it is the only one that has come close, and it was describing, we don't have to go into it, but it was describing, like, the split particle experiment and spooky action, but it was just saying, like, the feeling, it's just inexplicable when you realize the profundity of it. And it's like going down the roller coaster, but more, and, like, profound doesn't even touch upon it. Like, yeah, I'm just sort of hopeless to explain my side because I don't feel we have the way people come back from NDEs. There aren't, facts will convince a skeptic. Facts will be dismissed by a debunker. That's so true, Darren. Like, if you're determined to debunk
Debunkers
something,
are ridiculous. Don't bother with a debunker. A debunker is just somebody who's, to me, a debunker is scared and fearful, and I can't have that. Skepticism doesn't have fear and all of, I mean, it may have, like, a little anxiety, and you may be, like, a little afraid of what you might hear, but I'm talking about a debunker must have something somewhere deep. So you and I come from such opposite perspectives. It makes me so excited that we've met each other on this plane in this lifetime. I've never not known that spirit exists outside the body.
I can't even imagine that. And I have never, until I started researching this. I mean, I think when I was very little, I mean, you know, your parents don't say to, like, a 3-year-old, oh, you're going to die. Like, I remember them telling me there's a heaven and everyone goes to heaven when they die. And then I was a little older. They're like, oh, yeah, I remember, like, Santa Claus, heaven, God, you know, Tooth Fairy. Like, it was kind of all the same thing. It was like I was, you know, they didn't quite sit down and say it so roughly, but it just kind of became obvious that was a fairy tale for children. And the way they told it, it still is, but the way, like, Julie Beischel and Dr. Bruce Grayson studying NDEs tell it, it's not a fairy tale. Wait, there's some things coming in questions. Yeah, Amy, I agree. Amy has some questions. First of all, Amy, I agree with you. You need validation, and you haven't gotten it yet. Yeah. And oh, well, but it sounds like that is a validation, Amy, in a way. I mean, it takes, I think I maybe need to answer this one because I relate. You lost your father-in-law and felt him with you outside the hospital. Amy, the best thing I can really say to that as someone who also really needs a lot of validation is That's a start. Start keeping notes of that, because you're going to need more validation than someone who believes this, but feeling that, pay attention to those feelings, get the readings.
That's
I don't
right.
know how much you like to read scientific studies, but if you go to Windbridge, I mean, they have literal studies that are peer reviewed, written in what a lot of people think are boring, like very sciency, not for the general public words. And for me, in grief, I found that type of tone so serious and so calming because it was felt so real. So I just read data and study and data, and as well some translated for the
I
general
call
public
it
and some.
textbook relief. Some people can get emotional relief from a poem, and some people can get emotional relief from a textbook. I
Yes.
am also a textbook groupie. My books tend to be I mean, you can't, I don't know, you probably can't see them back there, but they're my books, they all tend to be antique. So I tend to find a lot of my peace and understanding coming from things that were written then and written first. So they're philosophical instead of scientific. But when you would talk about something like this, it wouldn't be scientific then. I mean, if you think about it, there's a great movie out. It's called, I believe it's called The Physician. And it really goes into how, for very many, many, many years, you were not allowed to cut open the human body. We didn't know what I mean, doctors were literally in wagons driving around selling you potions to drink for this, that, and the other thing. And those were the physicians. Those were the doctors. That's who people trusted. And they often were aligned with gypsies. So the gypsies would come through and the physicians would come through. And the gypsies would send people to the physicians if somebody came to the gypsies who needed some help. And sometimes the physicians would say, I see you have stomach issues, but this has nothing to do with anything I can help you with. You should go sit with a gypsy. So if you think about how somebody can be in a lot of grief and they don't have a way of understanding it or explaining it, and they don't have a point of resource, like you didn't have that until you started doing your research, and you only had what you could go look for, you are really going to wind up in just a few limited places. So once we started to cut the human body, which was sacrilegious and against the law to open a human body, we never saw the mind. People used to do lobotomies just to let out the voices. So now we're living in a space where the voices are coming in, and we have resources and studies and like Windbridge and a lot of articles, and you with your questions. But there is you cannot take grief and measure it in any way for people. So when it comes to the medium being measured, obviously it's going to get measured different if I'm reading you and giving you facts, or if I'm reading somebody else who wants to know if their loved one is okay. And that's it. Are they okay? Are they in pain? Are they still throwing up? Do they still have cancer? Can they hear me? Can they see me? It's like their limited view is of, are they underground pounding to be like, is their soul okay? Are they stuck here? Are they not stuck? Like, people really don't know. Just like we didn't know. We used to treat people's digestive system based on animals. And
I would say we probably still don't know. I think we know so little. We know
so little.
The most we ever have, but to think we are at the peak of knowledge in this huge, mysterious, possibly multiverse, that is so arrogant to think we mainly have the answers. We barely know anything. We're going to look back in 100 years. I mean, we know so much more than we did 100 years ago.
True that.
But given we don't all knock out the planet, we're going to know so much more.
Well, I'm very jealous of people who have the opportunity to look at their lives as if they are within that Darwinistic dinosaur nourishing the earth rotation, without having any contemplation of an afterlife or judgment or where or what or who. I mean, it does. I often thought, Liz, that where you were before you went on this adventure, do you ever wish you could just go back to that?
I wish I still had my dad around and
Amen.
But otherwise, hell no. It's horrible to think. I mean, it's horrible. In some way, I am so much more deeply happy. There was like this existential pain I had that I didn't know I had because I didn't have anything to compare it with except very early childhood. But like, there's nothing, in my opinion, whatever horrible things might happen in my life, nothing is ever going to be as bad as thinking when you die, that's it. Like, that is such a bad, like, I can't even, the comparison.
Wow.
Why would you want that? I can see why you want it in the sense to have gone from that to learning this joyful stuff brought joy through such a painful time, like grief. It brought a happiness, and like to have the best thing in the whole world. It's like, imagine getting like $1 billion. If you grew up as a multimillionaire, your life doesn't really change. But if you've grown up struggling and then you get $1 billion, everything's changed. It's the best thing. You just wake up like, holy shit. So there's like this chronic, like deep, almost like emotional appreciation I have for I'm still stunned. I'm just like, holy shit. So you've had a euphoric
experience that like so much more than an aha moment when stuff started flowing. Where when it comes to this, I've always known. I've never not known. And I was always a little jealous that I didn't have the piece of trying to make the decision on my own.
Okay, I can see that. But you don't think it's better to think there's no afterlife?
I don't know the difference.
You don't know the difference. That makes sense. Well, I will tell you from my perspective.
I have a fear that I could be crazy, but I don't know the difference. I don't know the opposite end to say that's a possibility. Like and my experiences, my aha moments, my existential explosions still happen. But they've had a base of awareness from the get-go.
I guess I'm curious if anyone feels differently. Is there anyone who ever just assumed there was not an afterlife as well and like thinks that they liked feeling that way? I'd be curious. I mean, you think it would feel... I mean, I don't know. The only time I've heard people say that, like the people I meet who thought like me think or are starting to wonder if it's possible. I have people in grief reaching out to me like, wow, you seem so skeptical, but you believe this, like give me any hope. And I give them hope as best I can. I tell them everything. I don't ever want to lie to somebody. That's
right. No lying. I'm yawning.
I will never lie. Even to comfort someone, I won't lie. So I'm like, I mean, if someone's like, are you positive? No, I'm not. And but I think there's a preponderance of evidence, and I just see that joy. The only time I've heard the other, and I in no way mean this to knock religion. I know it's been beautiful for some people, but people who've had a fear of like doing something wrong and they would go to hell maybe, who then become atheist, feel very freed. And this is something I've noticed, and it's a generalization.
You still did something wrong and then made a choice to not believe something. Yeah. Oh.
No, they feel freed, because I would think it'd be very controlling. Certain very restrictive religions, and again, I feel like I don't want to say judgment, but I'm just saying I can't identify with this. This is just what I've heard. So I can't have an opinion, this or that. It's, that's the only time I've heard freed. But what I find interesting is a lot of the most intense skeptics.
But they're making the choice not because of what the afterlife might bring them, but because of the little Jiminy Cricket in their ear, their consciousness, their conscience here having an issue that they want to block out. So that brings me back to the same thing. If somebody wants to debunk or say that there isn't, it is usually fear-based.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess, but I feel like I came fear-based. I mean, I was in grief and terrified and wanting this to be true more than anything. It was starting to study this. I consider it the scariest thing ever, because to allow myself to have even a glimmer of hope for something like this in the darkest point of my life, I've never been so scared, you know? I still sometimes feel scared. What if I discover something that proves it's all wrong? Like, I don't know if I could recover from that. I mean, you know, that'd be a disappointment I can't really fathom at this point. So there still is a fear. So like,
well, if you ever worry that this might not be something real, just what the fuck? Call me up. I'll help you. I promise.
Thank you. Yeah, I do worry sometimes that I go through all the evidence and it's actually a joyful feeling because I like kind of shock myself all over again. Like, holy shit, this. So
and I do it all the time. I mean, I know that there's people out there who have changed my life as much as I feel that, you know, and I believe them when they tell me I've changed their lives. You know, it's humbling to, I tell people all the time, you know, depending on what job position you're in, to have somebody say to me, you know, Rebecca, you healed me. You saved me. You changed my life. You've helped me more than therapy. You know, for somebody to, I guess for lack of a better word, to thank me for just giving them what I heard for them. It's so powerful. You can't give it up.
It's so, it's life-changing.
Crazy.
Well, more questions are coming in. We'll answer a few more because it's already been almost an hour and a half, and I want to make sure, I know you want to talk about how to avoid being scammed and stuff too.
Well, we could always do that on the podcast because we're going to come back. We're going to tag these comments.
That's true.
When the podcast comes out, so everybody can go watch the podcast too.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, which we're going to have to record separately for all of you people who came on earlier while we were doing
Well, now that we've done this and you know what kind of questions they have, we can go diving into certain things or different things even, or go deeper into something if you want.
Sure. I think one thing we should just tap upon lightly, and then we'll keep all these questions. And actually two things, because I see one that's pretty important. This one's interesting, that I feel there's one that's really important we should address. Darren, again, my fellow skeptic, and I'm interested in this too. Rebecca, what are your thoughts on physical mediumship and research such as skull experiments, wax hands? Art of Soulfulness, how do you watch the podcast? Well, we're going to record a different podcast, and then it'll be on the podcast apps, and we'll be posting on both of our social media. And you can also listen to the What the Fuck podcast on the What the Fuck website, which you can find following here. And Rebecca and I will both be promoting the podcast when it comes out, which will be in probably like a month or so. But so yeah, what do you want to go into physical mediumship? Do you want to save that for the podcast?
No, I can go into physical mediumship.
Okay.
I do believe that physical mediumship is real. I have not yet seen real physical mediumship in person. You and I have both been, and I will not talk by name.
We won't give names. I know what you're saying, but no, I don't ever name and shame.
But I will say that I have been physically present, and
sorry,
so bad. I have been physically present with 2 physical mediums. I believe in it. I really do believe in it. And I actually have studied with another medium working on physical mediumship. And I've also worked independently with 2 other people who sat with me while I was doing physical mediumship. So there's so many different layers to that. So there's mental mediumship, which is where I hear spirit vibration, I interpret it through my imagination, full body, 5 senses, give it back to you, your normal readings. And then there's the physical mediumship, which a lot of people will connect to the word seance, which basically means that your body is being possessed. Automatic writing, when spirit takes control. Is that me going dark? Oh, I'm here. I'm sorry.
That was you. Okay.
automatic writing is
Thanks,
awesome.
Tarrant.
So you can do automatic writing. That's physical mediumship. Watching lights blink, having like lights blink on and off. EVPs, working with a medium and having spirit, show an electronic voice phenomena. That's their voice on. All things that can, orbs, ghosts, things like that, things that happen around a medium, but getting possessed, that kind of thing. Yeah, no, I have not seen it in person done correctly. Yeah.
I went to a physical medium seance, same person Rebecca and I will talk about, and I'm never name and shame. It was the fakest carnival show thing I've ever seen. I was pretty disappointed, but not shocked. I expected to find a lot of fraud. However, one part of physical mediumship, it's PK, psychokinesis, mind's ability to affect matter. And I bent a spoon. That's an example of PK. I was shocked. I don't think
but
ever.
That's not physical mediumship like he's asking. Bending a spoon is it's PK, but it's telekinesis. It's using your physical energy to manipulate the atoms and physical energy of another object. We're talking about physical mediumship where you let another entity of energy and consciousness, which may or may not be discerned as something positive, and you present it out through you in a way that you cannot control. So physical mediumship is when the medium is taken over physically in one manner or another.
I was thinking of seances where objects fly around the room, and as Darren wrote and what I've heard,
but that would
hands manifest.
I did physical mediumship. There were two other people in the room. I was laying completely dead ass still. The other two were watching me. I heard and saw in my imagination, or wherever I was, because I was kind of in a meditative state, myself playing on the floor with a boy. When we were done, it was like 20, 30 minutes. I put a timer on. They both heard whistling and singing, humming in their ears. It was like they heard it. I heard the humming, but it was only from me on the floor with this child. But I was off on a bed on another side of the room. So physical mediumship, whoever the spirit was, I don't know, used my physical energy to make sound travel through the room.
That's amazing. That's the shit we have to study. It's amazing.
It's probably measurable in some sort of a way, but it wasn't measured. It was just witnessed. But but that's physical mediumship. But physical mediumship, there's people out there who they throw, pens and cards into a box and that comes out. And then there's people who sit in a cabinet and get tied up and shit goes flying. And then there's so many different aspects of it that in today's day and age, I don't think that a physical I hear Fran in my ear.
I was just thinking about her. That's so weird. Aw.
So
she was our mentor.
Fran said to me once, I'll never forget this. Actually, I think it was the day I met you. Wasn't the day I met you the day that Bob and Fran couldn't come?
No, we were already friends, but that's when we went to dinner with Fran and Bob. We were already good friends.
Right, and Bob wound up leaving dinner a little unexpected.
Yes. Right? Yes.
Do you remember how she yelled at me at the table?
She yelled at you quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of times.
She banged the table. We were talking about physical mediumship. You were there. And I'll never forget it. She banged the table and she said, she was like, she literally was like mad. You have no idea what somebody would give to speak to their child again, to hear their child's voice and to know that their child could hear them back. You have no idea how selfish of you. Because I remember saying to her, I don't know how I feel about my body being possessed by somebody else. And I remember her being so like, obviously I want you to let your body get, like, people want that. How would it feel? And I remember looking at you thinking, do you want your dad to possess me? Like,
yes. Yes.
Yes,
She was like,
I know.
Yeah, Liz,
How
you want
fucking
that.
weird
You
is
want that
that?
more than anything.
You would.
Yeah.
A Rebecca body to start talking in other human voices.
You would give anything for that. I remember trying to get that, find a medium who could come to my first holidays before I knew this wasn't possible. I was trying to get a medium to come download my dad as if the medium wasn't there and just their body was there, which, like, I write about in my book. It was a very awkward story. Like, I started inviting mediums, like, to come to the holidays I barely knew, and they were like, "Are you inviting me to your holidays?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, to bring in my dad." No, I didn't say my dad because I wouldn't tell anyone what happened because I wanted my evidence, but hard. I would do anything. Yeah, I agree with Fran, but Love and Light saying it's a hard no for me. Oh, it's a hard yes, give it. I would give anything if you would just download my dad. Yeah, Fran and I were in 100% agreement. That's what we want more than any reading in the whole world. You don't want a reading. You don't want, the readings are the best you're going to get.
Yeah, but
if
it's
someone
not,
would just download,
you
settle for the readings.
Probably, that whole thing, having that physical mediumship aspect of it. I've had things like when you have something fall during a reading, or something like a phone goes off during reading that was on silent, or, just a light blinks during a reading. I do feel like, if anything, go ahead and tell your story about the electricity and the microphone. That was physical mediumship.
My story, that's your story. I should tell it from my perspective?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the first time I've met Rebecca, first time I've met the mediums. I went to a Forever Family Afterlife Mediumship convention. It was in 2016, under a year after losing my dad, or about a year. And at that point, I thought I'd had some readings. I was starting to study it, just started volunteering for Forever Family Foundation. I assumed at this point, I didn't assume it was nonsense, but I really was about 50-50. I'm very anxious for this weekend and desperate. I'm like desperate to meet the mediums, desperate to make sure I didn't slip with any of my evidence.
Vigor and questions and excitement. We were all really happy to see you.
Were you? Okay,
yeah.
So I was always like, was I the most annoying person? I would corner the mediums. And one thing I've learned about mediums is they get really exhausted giving readings. So they'd be exhausted. I'd be like, can you wait. I have a question. And I would ask
I'd be like, could you please just stop?
Yeah, they were kind of like, okay, Liz, really, I've got to go to bed. I'm like, oh, I get that. Just one more. I would just corner every medium and ask sciencey-skeptical questions for 30 minutes longer, the whole weekend. Every time I could get a medium, they were just like, oh God, there's Liz. But I guess you guys all became my friends, so you must have actually not hated me too much. So what happened is, so Rebecca's in a group giving a reading, and it's this huge conference center, and it's tables, and she's reading. I was sitting actually right at the same table. And brings in, I don't remember if it was a woman's son or daughter, but she's holding the microphone.
It was a son.
And over Rebecca and the table I'm sitting at, the lights of Darren, yeah, you would do it too. Yeah, Darren, that's why Darren and I get along so well. Maybe Darren and I will come together to a Forever Family thing and just all you guys will be hiding from us. You'll be like, you can't have the two of you. Oh God, there's two of them. What the fuck? Liz is multiplying. We can only handle one. The lights flash over the table and Rebecca jumps back and it's like, holy shit. And then the woman starts crying and was like, my son told me he plays with lights. That's what he does. And Rebecca was like, yep, that was him. And I, from her perspective, has been a very interesting one too, which I think.
Well, yeah, the light was all recessed lights, but only the one above me went out. The microphone kind of threw me back, but there was a guy at 2 tables over that got the zap. Whatever it was that came through, it went to somebody else. I was like, I'm done. This is volunteer. I don't get paid to get electrocuted.
Yeah, and Rebecca, you said you felt the electricity shoot through you, right?
Through me.
Wow.
right back
And
to the wall.
there's no scientific way the lights could have gone off over just one table. Like,
I know, they were
mean,
recessed lights, half the room. But it fried all the computers that were hooked up to that whole thing. Peter Barone's computer, he lost everything from that day.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's crazy. And if I had been in charge, or if I knew Fran and Bob as well as I did,
wait a minute, Darren
later,
just did a little challenge. He thinks Becky would go nuts simply being on his podcast. Oh, please, I like a challenge.
Rebecca, yeah. Rebecca, yeah. But I have to say, what I would have done if I was Fran and Bob, and I didn't know them well enough to say this at this point, is I would have had an electrician come look. I would have said, this is what happened. I would have had an electrician go through the whole hotel and say if this was possible, and if so, how. But
you know what, though? Why? Why would you want to go that much further? I think that's probably the difference between you not having this in your life all the time and having the ability to receive peace from science, where I look at it like, oh yeah, that was just one of those things. You can't explain it. I'm not going to say it was or it wasn't, but then it is what it is.
I want to prove that I can't explain it by normal means.
Gotcha. So you're looking for a failure of hypotheses.
Yeah, I want to rule out all the normal explanations.
Gotcha. Well, I have a list of hypotheses. We can start.
Wait, this actually I think is an important question, not as light, but it came in. There's two questions I think are important. Amy wants to know, she always thought her mom would be around but doesn't feel her. I think that's a really actually important one to address.
Okay. So she believes she's around but doesn't feel her.
Yes, and I assume there's other people who experience that.
Sure, of course. You know, I would have to say that one of the reasons why we don't physically feel them around, which would be the pause of it's almost like you're looking for that feeling of, is somebody staring at me? Is somebody in the room? When you say you don't feel them around, it's usually because you're not in the physical position to put yourself in to feel them. If I want to feel my birth mom, I'm going to go to this bench in Northport and I'm going to sit on it and I'm going to feel her. If I just think about her and talk about her, sometimes it's not, well, I didn't really know her very well anyway, but or at all, but sometimes it's harder to put myself in a position where I'm going to feel her or sense it if I'm not in that frame of mind. Now, if you go and you sit in your dad's chair on some morning where, you were thinking about him and you make a cup of his favorite tea and you sit down next to him and you sit in his chair, you've made purpose, and then you're going to feel him around. So and if you do make that purpose or make that moment or make that connection, it's a guaranteed visit. For you to, at that point in time, say you don't feel him around would be because then it becomes a you thing. Because the feeling of feeling them around you is through you. So it doesn't always have to be a cold chill. It just has to be a moment. And those moments are always possible. They're always there. It's kind of like consciousness is linked. Remember when I told you can't measure it once it moves out of the body? Well, right. When you think of them, think of just one tiny particle energy, which is a cellular combination of all of their consciousness, just being able to be next to you for a split second. That's huge. That's bigger than you. And sometimes we just get lost in the grief of it instead of the joy of the miracle of it. It's sad, but it can be sad and joyful at the same time. Especially if you're going to get his favorite tea and sit in his chair for him. You're going to get sad, but you're going to feel him around.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Amy, I hope that was helpful.
Make a moment, Amy.
Let us know, write either of us on Instagram and let us know if that worked in any way.
I see Darren, he keeps talking about, I have a daughter, Darren, who is doing animal Reiki, and she has occasionally been bringing some animals through. So I'll have to hook you two up. Maybe she can work with you.
Yeah. Is that Nora?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Darren,
we just
you'll
set
love
up
Nora.
the whole Reiki table for the dogs.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have it right next to, well, not everything's set up yet, but we just set it up because it's right where the backyard is. So we're going to, she's going to start doing animal Reiki.
Oh my God. Maybe I'll bring Pickles out there.
Oh, we'd love Pickles for a visit.
Oh, well, I'll come with Pickles. I have to work on.
I have this little puppy down here.
Oh,
Lulu. She's under the healing table. I don't know where the other ones are. Sleeping somewhere.
Oh my God, wait. The Art of Soulfulness just wrote this. Darren Ida Lab, who would get up on the bed and jump down, then jump back and forth. After he passed, he jumped up on the bed. I thought, don't start. I had forgotten he passed. Yeah. Jill Pickles says he loves you too.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
So we're going on almost 2 hours, and
so
we want to save some content for the official podcast. Is there an important thing you feel? I know you want to.
Endless line of discussion. Yeah, you know what?
Endless. Anything we should.
I cannot believe the number of people who were bamboozled by a copycat who took all of my crap on Instagram and made a copy account, spelt my name wrong, wound up getting 1,800 friends or something, and made a few $1,000s doing text and phone readings, and it wasn't me.
Wow. So
on Instagram. And I, it's funny because I keep trying to, and I know it's a process, but I'm trying to get, verified or blue checked or whatever. And I know it's going to be a process, and I'll go through the process. And, but it's so upsetting because, people need to know that a real medium is going to be very subtle and busy. No, I will never reach out to somebody and be like, hey, you want a reading right now? Pay me right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. Like they were attacking via messages and so I just feel like I want people to be, just be extremely, extremely careful. And to always do really in alignment with what you did. I'm not saying that they need to seek out and get all of the exact answers right away. Definitely put your faith and trust, and people definitely need to put their faith and trust in. But at the same time, it's like you have to make sure that you know who you're talking to and where you're going, and whether you think a test would work or not, going to somebody who is willing to test is a very good thing. Make sure that the people that you're going to go and get a reading from, if it's not going to be me or not going to be somebody that's referred to you, if you're going to go out and look for something like this. I mean, what you did, and I thank you so much, Liz, by doing this, was you gave me an opportunity to be the real me and to have a conversation with you. And it didn't involve giving the readings, of course, but it's part of somebody getting to know me and getting to know my vibe and getting to know where I come from, and understanding that I'm not trying to hide. I'm not, these people were getting offered readings, and it was like, oh, just do this on Venmo and do it to this email address and do it to this, and I kind of sit back and I think, you have to be really, really careful about who you're talking to. Well, I would never take payment in advance like that with everybody's full name and everything. I try to keep it a little more low key. But yeah, I think that one of the important things I want to make sure that people know is that there are good mechanics and bad mechanics. And there are good healers. And there are healers that just stand there with their hands over you and don't do a damn thing. And there are mediums who who are really good at lying and fishing and bamboozling and Google searching and remembering. And there are just, there are just so many different types of readers out there too. I mean, if you want to know about relationships, works, jobs, life, vacations, things like that, by all means, find a psychic. If you want to really work on grief and be, kind of like you were, WTF just happened, that's always fun. I don't mind a challenge. That's mediumship, right? But I think the only thing that I really want to make sure that always gets mentioned is that ethics is so important, and make sure you find somebody that you align with. I mean, I love you for your ethics. I am not perfect by any means, but ethically, I really want to stay as best that I can, because there is something after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced with all I've seen, and that took a lot. That took years.
I'm so glad I'm part of it.
I'm so glad you are too. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone so much for joining us. I think it's almost been 2 hours, and so
I will
thank you.
Say goodbye. We could do this again.
I'm going to take you up on that.
It's so wonderful to just listen and be a candid conversation about all of this involving people with gifts and experience. Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's my friend Jill. Thank you so much for coming, Jill. You would love her. She's wonderful.
I love everybody on here.
Mm-hmm.
I love everybody here. Okay. Mwah. I love you too.
And we'll post about the podcast, because we're going to be continuing this conversation, talking about other stuff. So
we'll do it, and then we'll post back in here, and we'll make sure that we get it shared and get it out there. Thank you.
Oh my God! Wait, look who else is leaping up and saying he's wanting to say bye to all of you. Okay.
You'll definitely.
Yeah, and Darren, yes, we'll let you know. We'd love you to join. Okay. And Darren's going to come to Forever Family and ask tons of questions, and you guys are going to be like, there's 2. Oh, shit. So, yes.
Good. I'm going to like that.
Okay.
All right.
Pickles.
Bye, and thank you.
Thank you. Night, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
I'm really excited to let you know about the science and spirituality salons I'm now hosting. During these intimate events, a scientifically verified psychic medium will give all of you readings, and I will give a talk on the science and evidence that changed my mind about an afterlife. This will also be an amazing opportunity to get to meet some of you in person or virtually, and to share more about all the science and data that transformed my worldview and got me through my worst days. These can be hosted in your home, in a nearby cafe with a private room, or they can even be virtual. I've hosted a few already, and they were really special, fascinating, emotional, evidential. So if you're interested in getting a small group together over dinner, brunch, drinks, coffee, to learn more about the science and to get evidential medium readings, send me an email at hello@WTFJustHappened.net and put science and spirituality in the title. To get more information on what the fuck just happened, go to WTFJustHappened.net. There you can order my book, WTF Just Happened, A Sciencey-Skeptic Explores Grief, Healing, and Evidence of an Afterlife. You can learn all about how I came to conclude that there most likely is an afterlife, but you can also learn about the early stages of my grief and the amazing, fascinating people I met along the way. You can read about how much I harassed the mediums and scientists trying to get evidence to see if the mediums were cheating and see if what everyone was saying actually was true. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to stay updated on any new developments and any interesting new what the fuck updates. So if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. It makes such a difference, especially for a new podcast like this one. And if any of you have had a crazy what the fuck yourself, have any questions, feedback, or just want to say hey, Reach out on either Instagram at WTF_just_happened_, or email me at hello@WTFJustHappened.net. I love hearing from all of you. It makes my day hearing your stories and questions and feedback and all of it. And remember, you don't have to draw any final conclusions as you wonder, what the fuck just happened?